Okay, so today on my author video podcast, we have Reina Zoric here, author of Good Game Gamer Girl. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, so for those who haven't read your book, can you tell us a little bit about it?
A while back, I really wanted to read a book that had a PMC with just the same interests and hobbies as me. And I'm all over the place, so usually I could find a bookworm Karen. I could find someone who had like my obsessions with like TV shows and stuff, but I could never find a VMC who I related to uh, when it came to gaming. So I decided to write it. And so I did. And it's just like a love letter to women in gaming and the women in gaming I look up to. So yeah.
Mm. Oh, that's lovely. And yeah, when I saw your promotion for it, I was, I don't think I've ever read anything where it was like a gamer romance or anything like that. Um, at most, I think maybe one of the characters would have gamed but it wasn't like an integral part of the book. So this is one of the reasons why I did it because my fiance is a gamer, so I
Mhm.
was like, oh, this is interesting. And I absolutely loved it. So what was for you? What was like the big driving force behind this? Why this specific book and these specific characters?
Well, I was struggling to find what I wanted to write for around a year before I started this pen name. Um, I I had a very unsuccessful series in a different genre. So I was very disengaged with writing. I didn't want to write. I just wanted to write something that felt good. I was back to writing fanfic for like 6 months and like fell in love with writing again. So I started thinking about what I wanted to write again and publish. And I saw this meme about writers should take what they love and like mash it together and write about that. So I did that. I mean, I looked really deeply in my background and what I love to do, and I was like, I'm gonna write about that. And like I used to be involved in esports, and I used to be I used to be really into gaming, and my husband is still is, and like I was like, I can write about this because just I wanted something I will never get tired of, and I will
Yeah.
never, and it wouldn't bother me if it didn't become popular or if it didn't um, get the reception I wanted it to. I just wanted to write it for myself, the way I write fanfic for myself. So yeah.
That's beautiful. And it's like I have dabbled in writing before. I haven't done anything major. I find myself as a creative as a whole. So I'll like be like, oh, writing, or photography, or art. I'll just jump between them all. And yeah, it's definitely like you can get very discouraged with things and and like with anything creative, I think at the end of the day, if you're no longer having fun with it, what's the point? So you got to
Yeah,
find that again. So even like yeah, like even like fanfic, I love fanfic.
me
And like
too.
it's just nice and easy and like that's when I'm in a reading slump, I'll just pick up some fanfic because it's nice and the stories I read aren't nice, they're horrible. They're
Yeah.
traumatic. But it makes you feel good.
Hmm.
And I definitely think you hit the mark with it because it is just that it's a feel good story. It's one of those ones that just makes you feel warm, and I loved that. Um, so with your background in esports and stuff, how much of that helps you write for these characters?
Well, it was a while ago, so things aren't the same in esports like they were back then.
Yeah.
I was in esports just before the pandemic hit. So um, and right after that, I found a different job and I kind of phased out of esports because it was never my day job to be in esports. I was just doing it uh, as a part-time, almost like a volunteer, because
Yeah.
grassroots esports, you don't go into it for the money. You go into it for the love of whatever you're supporting, playing. I was a team manager, and I also played as well for a little bit. I went to a few tournaments. We didn't win anything, but it was really fun. And yeah, I I'm basing these characters on people I worked with, on people I knew in the industry, and just the way these characters deal uh, with the toxicity and just everything in general when it comes to the gaming community is things that have happened to me or to friends, and it's me reconnecting with that part of my life. I even made new friends who are streamers and who helped me make it less cringy, um, and but still accessible to readers who aren't tuned in to this community, because it's a romance book at its core. It's not a real life story. It's not a it's quite fantastical in some ways because stuff like that doesn't happen in real life. I mean,
Yeah.
just I there is some of the toxicity in it just to make it realistic, but in real life it's a lot worse. And yeah, it's it's an escape, but I also try to put a little bit, like a sprinkle of real life in it.
Yeah. Yeah, when reading that, I did enjoy that aspect of it, just because, like, even as someone who's not a gamer, I've seen stuff, and like I know that that's how um it is. Like, you'd have a completely different experience as a woman gamer compared to a male gamer, and um so I did enjoy that throughout the book, and I like how it was just a little touch on it, because, like you said, it's at core, it's a romance book.
Hmm.
Um, and I even enjoyed the little touch on public relationships, and like all of their concerns and everything like that with that, because, like, I often say, I'm like, I don't think I could ever be a famous person. I'm I'm too private. I'd hate it. I'd be a really good famous person's best friend. I'd be like, you come to me with your troubles and I'll be there for you, but I'll be out of the spotlight. So with that, how did, like, was that just the the I can't word tonight. The public relationship part of that, did that mainly come from just where the characters were, or did you want to have that in initially?
I wanted to add that in mostly because I mean, I am a fan of streamers. I usually ride with streamers in the background, just like something going on. Like my brain cannot work if it's just one focus on one thing. Like I need distractions, like controlled distractions. And so, as a fan of this space, I've seen so many real public relationships between streamers and between just content creators in general rise and fall, and um, I just and I know the pressure, like secondhand, but I mean we all can empathize uh, the pressure of trying to keep a relationship secret, but also when it goes public, the backlash that could come of it. I did not um, touch up on the backlash afterwards that much because I thought that's enough negativity for this book. Uh, I, I, I didn't want to dabble into it, so let's say that the world has learned better. But yeah, usually when women say they are in a relationship, even if they're seen as an accessory to somebody else in the space already, when a relationship is announced, they usually lose a lot of fans. They get hate threads about them. Just in general, being a woman in a relationship in the gaming space or just in the streaming space in general is a different is really different, and many women hide they're in relationships because of it. But I felt like in the book, just the way um everything started, it just, I don't know, I felt like it would be believable that there wouldn't be that much of a backlash
Yeah.
when the relationship went public.
Yeah. Especially like from the beginning, it was this whole find my mystery girl, and like
Yeah,
if I saw that, I'd be like, you two.
yeah, there was shipping already between
Yeah.
from the viewers, like fans in the book. So I was like, more people will probably be, um, I don't know, not happy, but like, oh, I knew it was happening. Like, you couldn't hide this from me. So, yeah, I just didn't think that like a whole lot of backlash was warranted. And I mean, it's a romance book. I'm not making it's not like a commentary on society or something. Like, uh, let me live in my fantasy.
Yeah, and you're writing it, and people will read it as, an escape for things. And I feel like with books, you've got to, especially contemporary books, you kind of got to let you that balance.
Hmm.
Because, like, in fantasy and stuff, you can have stuff that reflects our society, but at the same time, there's still that distance from it because it's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
So lots of your readers and everything will be like, it's okay. When it's contemporary, it's a bit harder to balance because it can all be so much real world, and that can just cause someone to be like, no, it's too close to home. I'm putting it down. So yeah, a escape, and it's nice to have, that fluffy happiness. Like you write in a world that you want. You
Hmm.
don't want there to be that much backlash. Therefore, you've created a world where there isn't.
Yeah.
And that's one of the beautiful things about being a writer.
Yeah, and it's just, I've always done this. Like, I don't write anything that's like, okay, no, well, I do, but I never publish anything that's too uh dark and depressing, because just in general, I feel like I want people to be entertained, and I want them to feel good when they read my stories. Which doesn't mean I won't um add any like real serious topics into it. It's just that I don't want people to feel burdened when they read what I write. And it's the same thing with my fanfics as well. I always want um in the end everything to be like tied up with a bow, and like everything to make sense, but also for people to come out of it feeling satisfied in like the happy content type of way, and not in the satisfied but I'm also depressed, I cannot like pick this up again, like this wrecked me to my core.
Yeah.
I read that, but I don't want to write that.
Yeah. And it's like people that write that stuff, they must be able to like distance themselves from it so much because, like, as someone that reads stuff like that, sometimes that's full on. And I'm like, if you're creating that in your mind, like, how do you stay healthy mentally?
Oh, you don't. I've dabbled in writing it, and I've had a lot of friends who write it, and just you need to come. I cannot say this word, compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize? Yes.
Yes. uh, that in your mind, and it doesn't it doesn't say anything about you, just like as a person. It's just something that you're working through in a healthy way, uh,
Yeah.
writing it out and just projecting it healthily onto, characters that you love,
Yeah.
usually in fanfic.
Mhm. And so why did you choose to go the indie published route instead of traditional publishing?
Well, I've done traditional publishing with a pen. Well, is it traditional if it's a small publisher? I don't know. Um, but yeah, I did get an advance, so I guess it's kind of traditional publishing. And I've done that with a previous pen name, and I just didn't like the lack of control.
Yeah.
Uh, and I didn't like the fact that like somebody else was doing my marketing, and they could just stop doing it at any point, and just I feel like I'm a control freak. But for some stuff
Yeah.
I'm not. But when it comes to how my book looks and feels, for example, I love floppy paperbacks, so I want my book to be a floppy paperback. So for stuff like that, I want to be able to do them myself. And I also am the kind of person that likes to pick up new like skills and stuff, and like I like learning things. So I was like, I can do it myself. Like it's not that hard. It couldn't be that hard. I mean, it was, but um, yeah, I learned that like there's nothing like you can't learn mm, to a decent degree. The internet is
Yeah.
free. Like there's somebody on the internet that made a YouTube video that about whatever you're like struggling with. Like there is, or a blog post with like step by step whatever, and you just need to find it. Like
Yeah, definitely. And especially like with the online bookish communities and you've got the reader side and you've got the writer side, everyone's sharing their information and everything like that. So it's all a lot more accessible now as well.
yeah, especially in the romance community, everybody like I'm coming from a genre where being a woman was like a woman writer was like so just being in the romance community and making all of these friends and making connections with people, and just the amount of information you get from just random people sharing what worked for them or what didn't work for them. Just it's like it at first it was overwhelming, but I'm so thankful for it because it's just you have a question, like you put it on threads, and like a few people will answer it, or you go into a Facebook group and like just somebody has asked this question before, like you will find an answer like with the search button. And it there's such a wealth of information that makes just everything a thousand times easier, and I love it like because I like to do my research. But before I had to kind of like trailblaze stuff for myself, and like there wasn't a uh like there wasn't this kind of information. Like my previous genre was a little bit gatekeepy. So I was struggling a lot, and I'm so glad I found my way to romance.
That's lovely. Um, yeah, I absolutely love how the community is so, or can be, so just giving and all that. I often think of being an author as like one of the careers where you don't necessarily have competition because like it's
Mhm.
not like someone's only ever going to read one book in the world and it has
Yeah.
to be your like readers who love to read are going to read multiple books, and often too, like, even it's one of the things where if they find you years from now and you've written 10 more books and they love your writing, they'll go back and read them all. So like it's something where you can be in it for like a very long time and not see the success you want, and then all it takes is that one book with that one reader one time, and then suddenly everything's boom. um, so I absolutely love that. And good girl, good game, gamer girl. You're planning to be a series, aren't you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know how many books you're planning for that?
For now, it's three. I had to kind of like put a number down because actually I don't know. By the time this is out, I should be able to say this. I have audiobooks coming out with them for the whole series with Podium Publishing. So uh, I'm really excited. Uh, and yeah, I needed to put down a number of books for them, and it's going to be three at least. We'll
Yeah.
see after the third one because I don't think I've set up enough characters to for there to be more than three books. But yeah, it's the first one is Emma and Alex's book. The second one is Ryan and Casey's book, and the third one is Lauren and Dan's book, but he doesn't like being called Dan. He uh, says that everybody should call him Mouth by his username, which is a thing that a lot of uh, gamers do. Like when they get they're known for their like username, they like just want everybody to like call them by their username or
Mm.
like part of their username or something. And I have a few friends who I know their real names, but if I say their real names, they will think like, oh, she is like somebody put someone else in her body. Like she knows better than to call me by my like given name or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like nicknames in general. I used to, when I was back in high school, I used to give out nicknames to my friends, and legit, that would be the only one I'd call them. And then when someone would say their real name, I'm like, who are you talking about?
Exactly.
And that's so exciting about the audiobooks.
Yeah, I'm like really, really, really excited. I don't listen to audiobooks. Like I cannot, like my brain does not process them, but it can process podcasts, which is really strange for me. Like I can have a podcast going in the background, but I cannot have an audiobook going on in the background. It, and even if I like crank up the speed or whatever, I cannot. Just it doesn't work for my brain. But that's why I said I'm not a control freak for everything. So like had I've had an audiobook produced before, and it was a great experience. I worked with a great narrator, but just having somebody like Podium come in and help me get everything right, even though I'm not like the primary audience, like I don't listen to audiobooks that much. Like I've listened to a few like friends' audiobooks to like help them like pick out stuff maybe that like there's like a mispronunciation or something, and it was torture for me, but I did it because they're my friends and I really wanted to help them. But yeah, just having somebody come in and help me with something that I wouldn't be able to do by myself really is really valuable to me, and they're just great
Yeah,
to work with.
that's so awesome. I love audiobooks. Depending on like the type of book, I can read anywhere between one speed and three.
Hmm.
Um, and I just love that you can like multitask. And if I don't have any like household chores or I'm not like traveling or something and I'm listening to one, I sit there and on my iPad do like a color by numbers.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just nice. And I especially love listening to romance with it. I think some like fantasy and stuff it's harder because it requires a bit more focus with like names and places and all that with it. But like contemporary romance is a lot easier to listen
Mhm.
to like that, and I absolutely love it. So that's so exciting.
I'm really excited as well. It's the first time I'm not like in full control of it, and I'm fine with it because I know they do great stuff. I've had
Yeah,
friends work with them in the past and just rave about everything, and their audiobooks were also great. So I'm really excited to work with them, and they've been amazing so far, and I'm excited for the series because just having audiobooks for them for it makes it so much more accessible to people, and just I don't know. I like having other mediums of the book. That's why I have like my paperbacks, and then I have my special edition paperbacks, and then I still don't have a hardback because the book's really short. Like it's not short,
mm,
but I mean like it's a short book, and it will look like kind of silly to have it as a hardback. But I'm thinking of having that too. It's just I like collecting things. I have and that's why I want to have it like in every which way people would want the book. And audio is just another step um to having it available in everything.
yeah. And I actually, so I don't I'm not a big fan of hardbacks just because like reading them is like I don't find comfortable
Mm-hmm.
and I don't tend to get special editions unless like I really love them. Like I'm not someone that will sign up for one of those subscription boxes or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I've recently gotten a few hardbacks and they're like only that thick, but and they're like so cute. And I was like, oh. So I definitely think that it's something you could do if that's what you wanted to do. Like it doesn't look silly or anything. It's just it looks nice and cute. And I love when you see a book and it's tiny, like not tiny, but like because I'm like, oh, easy read compared to some which are like this thick, and you're like, oh my god, I've got to dedicate like weeks of my life.
Yeah, I do prefer shorter books as well, just in general. As a reader and as a writer, okay, this is a very controversial take, but I don't think a contemporary romance has any business being more than like 400 pages. Like even
Yeah,
400 is like pushing it. I think the sweet spot is like 350. If it's more than that, I can be like, oh, if maybe the plot is good. But if it's more than 400 pages, I'm like, what is happening here? Uh,
yeah,
I mean, if it's a duology, that's a different story. But if it's like a single standalone book that's uh contemporary romance, it has no business being more than 400 pages, I feel like. Something's wrong
yeah,
if it's more than that. Just for me, like for me as a reader, like some fanfics I read are like half a million words, but I mean, a published book, I think, has no business being that long.
yeah. And there's like definitely like because like I said, I do read fanfic as well. Most of my fanfic is more fantasy based too, so like it makes sense for that length. But some like I have a friend that reads some and it's literally just slice of life stuff that just keeps going. And she's like, I love it. And so like that's fine. But you would never publish that and be this
Yeah,
huge lengthy book.
I mean, not as a book. You can
Yeah.
have it as maybe like a serial, like web serial.
Mm.
I would like or like a web comic. Maybe not. I don't think the that books as are the medium for the slice of life like that you're talking about. Uh,
Yeah.
but I mean, and then it's not really a romance, is it? It's a slice of life
Yeah.
with a romance, like plot,
Yeah.
like subplot or something. I love slice of life. I read a lot of it. It's just I read it in like the web serial kind of way. So like, but yeah, not as a book. Like if I'm picking up a book, I want to know that it's gonna end. eventually.
Yeah. And what was your writing process like for this?
Well, chaotic, as everything in my life. But well, so I wrote the book, like I drafted it in like 3 weeks.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but I was planning it for like half a year. Uh, Mostly because I had free time in that time. Like I just there was nothing going on in my life, so I sat down like hyper focused, and I actually wrote maybe half of it in a weekend of the first draft, not the whole book, but just like the first draft. The first draft was supposed to be the book was supposed to be a novella. It was supposed to be 35K words. So it was supposed to be like tiny. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even think I was going to publish it as like a paperback because it was going to be like a centimeter thick. Like it wasn't like it wasn't going to be anything huge. But by the end of the month, it was 40K words. Then I found a an awesome dev editor, Maggie from Hopeful Romantics Books. I think that was the name of the company. Anyway, she was great, and she helped me with like developing the story. And she was like, "You could make this a book. Like, you have enough like plot in this to make it like a actual novel." And I'm like, "Are you sure about that? Like, I don't think that much is happening." And she was like, "Girl, yes. Like, add this and this and this, and you'll see." And I did. And by the end of it, it was 60K words, which is like nearly double what I thought it would be. And yeah, it became like a real novel. Um, and yeah, so I did like I did the dev editing pass, and then basically I had to rewrite the whole book. So like the pacing and everything would be for a novel length book. And yeah, just and also the flow of my first draft was not good. And I had to rewrite like full chapters to make them flow better because I just it the sentences were like too choppy, and that usually happens when I'm writing like fast, because when my hyper focus just hits, I need to get this out, or I will lose it and I will not come back to it. Like that's just how like my brain works. I have like so many half finished books that I wrote as like not even as a teenager, but like from like before. And like I have so many books of like 40K words because that's how much I could write in a weekend. Uh, but they're not finished. Like so yeah, it's just when it hits, I just need to buckle down and like write it because that's the best way I draft. But like when it comes to editing, I can do it at any point and like rewriting and stuff. But just like getting the words out the first time around, I need to do it when my hyper focus like hits, or I'm not finishing this book. Like I just know myself. Like at this point, I've written, I've tried to write more than 15 books, but I've only finished 5 of them, and the ones I finished were the ones that I sat down and like finished them in like a weekend or a long weekend, like 4 days or something. Um, yeah, so I draft really fast, but I edit for months.
Well,
That's my process.
and like that's what your drafts are for, to like get it out onto the page. My mum is a writer, and she'll like write scenes, and it'll be like your chop like a lot of dialogue, and be like, okay, well, and then she'll like skim a part of section to get to the specific scene that she's got all written out, and yeah, like, and then that's what editing's for, to fix it all up.
Yeah, I feel like I edit more than I write.
Mm,
And I feel like that's fine. Because it's the way that my brain works. Like if I you
yeah,
can't edit a blank page, and I take that literally. So I have like right now, book two is sitting on my computer. It has all of the dialogue for the whole book written out. But the descriptions are in square brackets. Describe this, and this, or
mm,
uh, they get from here to here, and something something, and
mm.
just it's not written, like you can't read it. Like that's why I don't show people like my first drafts, because they will be horrified. It's worse than, the Wattpad fanfics with where everything, like every action is like in asterisks. It's worse than that. It's literally worse than that. It's like a very long Tumblr post about, well, from those like character A does something and character B likes it or something. You know those like Tumblr posts? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that, but just like in novel form. Uh, and like you don't want to read that. You just don't. So yeah, and I think it's like a symptom of me coming from like fanfics and just fandom culture in general. It's the way my brain works. Like my characters, like I have so many like head canons and stuff like that. Like I have like all of the posts I write like on my threads and everything about like my characters and stuff. That's those are formatted like fandom, like fanfic fandom posts. Like they're formatted like a Tumblr post, as if I was a fan of something. And the thing is, I am my book's biggest fan. I wrote them for myself first. So I mean, if I'm not making those, like who is? So yeah.
And that's another thing. I think dialogue is so much easier to come up with, and you could
Yes.
like, and then you can just fill in the stuff because that's like the main part of the scene, right? Like when they're having like, if you're having an argument, you write that dialogue, and then I think it's also faster because when you have to think about like their movements and stuff, I feel like it slows down the writing process. So,
Yes.
just in a haze, write down all that dialogue and then come back again and be like, okay, now where are you? What are you doing?
Yeah. It's just I feel like we as people also like uh put more weight on the dialogue, because that's when the characters like speak directly to you. Because I'm gonna be honest, sometimes when there's like, especially in fantasy, when there's half a page of description, I skim it like and get to the dialogue. And especially if I'm like not enjoying a book as much, like it's probably because I feel like the description is like dragging on. Uh, and think that's the thing about my head is just I I I I'm also not a very descriptive writer as a whole. My books most like I read a lot of light novels as a teenager. Sword Art Online was like my favorite thing ever. So I was like a huge I still am, but back then I was like a huge nerd about anything. Like I played Dota 2. I was into anime a lot. Like I absorbed all the nerdiness from my friends, and I became a like an amalgamation of everything. Um, it and yeah, it's just, and I also somehow got good grades still. Like I don't know how I did that. When I was reading fanfic until like 3 in the morning, and then woke up at like 6 to write my homework. But we don't talk about that. Uh, and just it really influenced me in the fact that I don't need much description, because like light novels, they don't like, they're really light on the description. It's really about the dialogue and moving the story forward, like the plot. And the description normally came from like the pictures they had like in
Yeah.
the light novels. And like, because you and I guess that's why I'm really allergic to writing like a paragraph like description that's like this long. It's
Mm.
most The most I can make myself do is like 2 lines, 3 lines maybe, and that's where my editor Maggie comes in. She's like uh basically tapping like that's how I imagine her. Like she's like, here you need to write more, like tapping on the glass, just like write more description. And so I do, and usually she's right, and it reads better. But yeah, I'm like really allergic to that, and it's like my biggest like weakness as a writer is just like I'm allergic to description. But one thing for the other, I know other readers also hate when like description goes on and on and on and on. So I guess I'm writing more for them. But yeah, I guess it's also maybe a symptom of like writing fanfic, because in fanfic like you already know like what everything looks like. You just say the thing, and like the readers will know like what you mean. Like if you're writing
Yeah.
Harry Potter fanfic, you don't have to describe every time like the characters go into the Great Hall. Like like they know that there's like candles like
Yeah.
floating around and like stuff. Like just like give me the plot. And yeah, that's how usually my first like my draft goes to the editor goes, and then it comes back with write more description everywhere. But also in contemporary romance, like you don't get that much description,
Yeah.
unless it's how the other like the love interest looks.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I guess that's why also I felt drawn, and I feel like I'm good. I wouldn't say I'm like good, but like I'm decent at writing romance, contemporary romance in general. Uh, because I used to write like I said this on Threads, so I think I can say it here as well. I have a draft of a dystopian like uh the selection esque book that I wrote like uh, 4, 5, 6 years ago. That's like a whole lot more dystopian, and like has like all the fantasy like it has like fantasy tropes, but like in a dystopian setting, and like there's no magic. So like a political fantasy, I guess, but like in a dystopian world. Anyway, and that book is like my like baby. I think about it every day, but I will probably never finish it. Because I just need to write so many descriptions, and like I need to like think about like political systems and stuff like that, and I'm like, that's not like I don't want to do that. But it's
Yeah.
based I like the concept. Like I would like gladly give it to somebody who likes that. But like ideas are cheap. Like you don't need my idea. Like I want to read something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I I feel like my strengths as a writer shine best in contemporary romance and not fantasy for that.
And you said that you wrote Good Game Gamer Girl mainly for you. So now that that's published and you're writing the next, do you feel more pressure to like write for the readers, or are you still mainly writing for you?
I guess both, but that's why like I made a post, and I shouldn't have, but I made a post about asking if I should add a type of representation into Good Gamer Guy. In my mind, it's just GGG2. Like I don't say the whole um title of the second book because it's just too much repetitive. Like, anyways, so, and even actually even with my like friends, we don't even say like it's like 4Gs. We just say G4,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny because that's an esports org, or was. I think they bankrupted. But yeah. So it's G4. Uh so um Wait, what was the question again? Yeah, the pressure. Uh, well, I feel a little bit of pressure when it comes to delivering the same kind of experience because the characters in the second book are quite different. It's not going to be as, I mean, it is, but it's not going to be as lighthearted in the same way that book one was. Um, and well, book one wasn't that lighthearted, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this kind of representation, which is it's sexual dysfunction and like vaginismus for the PMC. It's it doesn't um it doesn't lead itself to that lighthearted of a story, especially because we're writing a spicy romance novel. Like, you want like the spicy times to be, exciting, and just having that looming in the background might be a little bit too much for some readers. And I made a post asking readers if they would like that kind of representation in the book, and most of them said yes, and I feel more confident in making that choice now. But I was going to do it anyway. I feel like, because it's the way the story came to me, and it's just I feel like I struggle with those same issues as the PMC, and I want that represented, because Emma represented my love for gaming, and Casey will too as well. I mean, just a different type of gaming, but I
Yeah.
wanted a representation to go beyond just the hobbies. I mean, Emma has some of my anxiety. Well, a lot of my anxiety. But um, I just we as writers always put something from ourselves into our characters, and sometimes it's not even from ourselves. It's from our like family or friends or just somebody around us that inspired us. And for Casey, I really wanted to have that kind of representation. Uh, and is the way that her character came to me in and I'm really like, I feel the pressure of doing justice to the representation, because readers like not many readers have read like a book about like gamers, but also they haven't read a book with that kind of representation as well. So having too many new things might like overwhelm them, or just not feel as relatable.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm scared of that, but I'm still writing it for myself. Like, I treat it like I try to treat it like I write fanfic. I write fanfic because I want something to be changed or to see myself in the source material. Like, I do write some self inserts. Like, it's a thing. Like, even at my old age, I still write self inserts sometimes, and just I try to treat my writing, like my books, the same way, because if I want to see myself, like some part of myself in the book, somebody else will probably want that as well. And the
Yeah,
difference is
exactly.
just that I'm writing it and they will be the ones reading it and they will be the ones judging if I did it justice or not. Because for myself, like I'm not gonna write a book that doesn't feel like I'm doing justice to myself, you know? Because I'm writing it from my own experiences. But I feel like when you put it out there for people to buy, like, because in fanfic, like everybody can read it. It's like it's nobody is paying for it, and when people are buying a book, they or reading it just like in KU or whatever, um, they expect things to be a certain way, and it's it's the pressure of like writing original stories and publishing them in general, and just a little bit amplified because of the representation I want to add. That was very long-winded. I should have said that more concisely, but I do yap a lot, so
That's fine. I myself am a big lover of representation. Like, even if it's not something that I relate to personally, I love reading about something that I don't usually like see in books and stuff like that. I just because my whole opinion on it is there are people in publishing who tell people, "Oh, no one's going to read a book about that," or it's like stuff like that, and I'm just like, "Well, you don't know because you haven't given them the option."
mhm.
So, and I love like I just wrote a review for a book where the FMC it has ADHD, and it was like a late diagnosed thing, and I'm like, that's me right there, and I'm like, I related so much to that in the sense, and then especially so therefore I understood her character more, and it's just I love stuff like that. It adds another layer to the experience of reading.
It truly does. And just I also relate so much to characters like especially late diagnosed, like both ADHD as well. You should give me that rec, by the way. I
I
would love
will.
to read that, because that's me as well. I'm not like officially diagnosed because maybe I'm not. I don't want to go into it,
Yep.
but too much. But in my country, like your employers like get to like will know if you have like something like this if you get like officially diagnosed. And in my country there is like a stigma around it, like,
Yeah.
and if I ever decided to switch jobs, like I will have a hard time finding a new job. So a lot of us um like neurospicy folk around here, we don't get like officially diagnosed because it can harm us in the long run,
Mm.
just because of the stigma. But we're working on uh, that people are getting more open. It's just, yeah, it takes time. And until then, we will do our best uh, without actually getting a diagnosis. And yeah, but yeah, I really I relate to those a lot. Like I've read a few, and I also, that's why, like, just a side note, my favorite author is Ali Hazelwood, and it's because she has like you know the what she did about for like romance books about women in STEM is like so, like I love it. Like I'm like my uh and the thing is she started in fanfic as well, and I just she's like my hero. And just the fact that she also writes like diverse like FMCs, and just her characters, like you can love both of them. Like if I'm bi, so I want to fall in love with both characters, like not just the love interest. So like I eat it up. and sh I aspire to be her, you know? So and that's why like I love the way she handles like representation in her books, and it's always like it's never like major, like it makes it about that. Like sometimes it does, but I mean like it's a romance book about women in STEM, uh, and on the side like that's like a subplot, and it's not
Yeah.
like it doesn't define the FMCs, and it's just something that they struggle with, and I love that so much because you're not like what you struggle with, even though like there is like a saying like the struggle is what makes you or whatever, like there was a song, like there's a song that's all about like, oh, the struggle you're up against is what makes you the person you are or something. But like no, like you can be yourself and like be what you are and just like have to struggle with something. It's not it doesn't define you as a person. Um and if it does, it's also fine. It's just like it's not for everyone. It's not like that for everyone. And I really, really appreciate that in her writing. And I aspire to do something like that as well one day. But it's just like, yeah, I have no words. I just fangirl a lot about her.
I love that because it's like, um, because that's what, like, as a reader and like for me, I've been, I think at the end of January, I will have been on Bookstagram for a year, and then I've been on Book Talk longer, but um, on and off because of other stuff. And so, like, even like if it's traditionally published author and indie author, and I'm like, I read their book and I like message them and they reply to me. I don't care if it's their first review or something. I'm like their first book or anything. I'm like, oh my god, you messaged me back. Like it's a bit of a fan. In my mind, you wrote a book, you're famous.
Yeah, same. Actually, same. Like I fangirl over like even though I have like author friends and like we talk like let's say weekly with some of them, and some of them we talk every day, but whenever they have like a release or something, I am their biggest fangirl. Like I just love them and I love their books. Usually I've read it before it gets published, so I'm like uh I go into fangirl mode and I don't stop until they tell me please stop, like calm down. uh but yeah, I I just I just love it, and the way like I think a lot of the stuff I do like comes from like fandom, and it's just like it's like your favorite anime gets like a new episode, and like everything you do is like you screen cap the episode, like you start making memes, like you start talking about it, and that's what I feel like when like somebody around me releases a book. Like I go into that same mode, and I'm screenshotting quotes, I'm like talking about it, just like hyping them up because I, I that's what I like, that's what I want to do, and it feels really like good, like for me, because I love being excited about stuff. Um, I'm just an excitable person, and I love having something to obsess with, especially when there's somebody else to obsess over it with me.
Yes,
That was a weird
definitely.
sentence. But yeah, it's because all of like most of the fandoms like that I am still in, they're pretty dead. Um, so when I want to be a part of like something, so all of these new releases and from mostly indie authors that I'm friends with, it feels like I'm like doing like fandom stuff, and I love it.
Yeah, that's great. That's one of the reasons, like, I recently joined kind of like a book club, but like buddy reading, and we're
Mm-hmm.
reading Frida McFadden's books. And I hadn't read any of hers before, but like I knew I wanted to, and I was like, oh yeah, great, I'll join this. And like, as much as I love reading the books, I think my favorite part about it is discussing it with everyone else.
Yeah, that's just such a wonderful experience. I can't speak. That's such a wonderful experience, and that's what makes like reading so fun. Like you can read for your like at home or just like by yourself, but when there's a community around a specific book, it just makes it so much better because there's fan art, there's discussions, there are theories. Like you get to be a part of something, and it's wonderful, and
Yeah,
that's what makes like some books like stay in like people's minds for longer, and that's why you still have like mm, for example, Fourth Wing is still like everybody's talking about it because everybody's read the book and they have like theories, and like there's always like new fan art and somebody else read it and they have their own opinion, and just like the cycle continues, and you're just swept up in it. It's always in the back of your mind, or it's like comes to the front whenever like you see something about it, and it's just being a part of something like that just feels like rewarding, more
yeah,
than just reading the book. Like because the book can be like the greatest book ever, but if nobody else has read it, like
yeah.
it it's different. And it can be like a super mid book, but like if everybody else is talking about it as well, like you'll make a bigger connection to that book because uh you've connected with other people using like the experience of reading that book.
Yeah,
Like it's like a
definitely.
psychology thing for sure, and I'm guilty of it as well. Like I read some books that are just like awesome books, but nobody else around me reads them, or like I look up like fan art or something and there's nothing there. And then there are like books that I like enjoyed, but they're not they're not the next masterpiece, like they're like popcorn, like really feel good books, but
Yeah,
everybody is talking about them, and you just get swept up in it and you start obsessing over it, and it becomes your like best choice, like best book of the year because of like just the experience around the book as well. And yeah, I have trashy taste in books. So when I say like a light like good book, but like a light like not, it's not like that the book isn't good, like because it's good. It's good. Like it's comfort food. I love it.
mm,
That's why my like mostly my favorite books are not like critically acclaimed or just like good writing. They're the good experiences, because if
yeah.
it the book can be written like in the most beautiful way, but if the experience isn't like, I don't know, it's it's a good book. Like I rate like so many books 5 stars because like I love them. I just love them.
Yeah,
I'm so good at like, I know my tastes, so I know which books to pick up. But and I rate like, that's why people are like, oh, like you shouldn't trust people who have a Goodreads like average review rating of more than 4 because they're clearly lying and giving everything 5 stars. But like I legit every single book I read is a 5 or 4 star read because I just
mm,
pick up like the best books ever. Like I know what I
yeah.
like. So
Exactly. I'm the same.
yeah. So I know what I like. I will pick it up and read it. It doesn't matter if it's like dark fantasy or like the sweetest like tooth rotting like romance book or like cozy fantasy. Like y- you will pry these books out of my cold dead hands. Like, and these 5 stars, like I'm giving them out. because these are the best books for me, like in that mood. Because sometimes I pick up a book and I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy this right now, but I will enjoy it when, like, for example, my depression hits. Like,
Yeah.
so when my seasonal depression hits, like, I know which books I want to read. But and so I don't like I DNF them for now, you know?
Yeah.
And just get something that's like that I'm in the mood for right now. And just yeah, I I don't know how I went on this tangent, but we're here.
Ooh. Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been really fun, and I'm excited for your next books and your audiobooks because that's going to be amazing.
Thank
Where
you.
can everyone find you and your books?
Well, the books are only available on Amazon. They're in KU.
Yeah.
Uh, you, I'm not sure if I'll have like special editions out for everyone uh, by the time this is posted, but maybe those will be available on my author website, which is reinazoric.com. Just and everywhere on the internet, I am Reina.Zoric, except on Blue Sky. I think on Blue Sky we can't have dots, so it's Reina Zoric. But yeah, just the username's free everywhere, so I've made like that's my handle everywhere. If or if if it's an old account, it's probably my username, which is Oraclemyth, which is also the username of the main character in my book.
I
Because
thought it sounded familiar.
yeah, um, it was a nod. Like I was thinking about what usernames to like give my characters, and my husband was like, "Why don't we name them after ourselves?" And so uh, the FMC has my username, and the MMC has his username.
Oh,
So
that's so cute.
yeah, even though the characters are nothing like us, like, but you know, it's it's fun. It's fun, and yeah, it's yeah. That's where you can find me, either as Reina Zoric or Oracle Myth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay.